Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Stacey Harris, and I am the Outreach Program Manager for Military Spouse Jobs, which is a unique organization that provides job placement for our military spouses. I am also the Program Manager for Spouse Nation, which is a wonderful program that we have put together to help all of our military spouses who are not quite yet ready. We like to let you know we want to keep you employment ready until you're ready for employment. And one of the great tools is what we're going to be talking about today is leadership. And I would like to welcome our guests. We have Mark Holman. He is the VP of Partnerships. Make sure I get that right. Now, I told you I was going to do your name wrong. Samira Percy.
Thank you.
The academic advisor. They are joining us from the Resilience Builder Leadership Program. I also have my partner in crime, Melinda Rao, who is the Senior Outreach Program Manager for Military Spouse Jobs and Spouse Nation. And we have been given this great opportunity to provide some scholarships to our military spouses. And what we wanted to do today was really talk about this leadership program, who would benefit from it, and how it will benefit you as a military spouse when you go looking for a job. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to turn it over to Melinda. We're going to ask some questions of Mark and Samira, and hopefully you guys will all get some great input, and then we'll get a lot of great activity for our scholarships. So Melinda, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want everybody out there, when you hear this recording, think back at how many of those leadership courses you have heard about or maybe even attended when you have moved to new installations or moved around as your military service member has been relocated throughout his career. There have been a lot of opportunities to plug into leadership courses because leadership is such a key part of being that employment ready employee. But today we're going to talk about something that's unique and different. And when I was doing my research, I liked reading about this particular program because it resonated with me, the resilience builder piece of this leadership certification. So we're going to talk with Mark and Samira today about how this works. First of all, I would like Mark to tell me a little bit about this organization and why the founder of this organization developed these particular courses.
Sure, I would be honored to, and thank you so much for having us here today. I'm really looking forward to this. The Resilience Building Leader Program was founded by Dr. Gene Coughlin on the idea that collective resilience is essential for organizational learning and change. Our purpose at RBLP is to take that and to share this idea with leaders everywhere. We actually envision a worldwide community of practice made up of frontline supervisors, middle managers, and senior leaders that are truly committed to the value proposition of building resilient teams. And that's where our focus is around. Interesting enough, Dr. Gene Coughlin, our CEO and founder, when he did 20 years in the Marine Corps, he's a Marine gunner, he retired, he then went to the private sector. As he went to the private sector, one of the things that he did is he worked at a bunch of Fortune 200 companies as a program manager, as a project manager, moving up through various organizations. And he had worked at several. And through that and his transition, he had gotten his undergrad, his grad degree, and then he was going to earn his PhD, in which he went and did research for his dissertation. And the topic he selected for his dissertation for his PhD was collective resilience. Now, what's interesting is that when he went to do that, you learn about individual resilience, which is very, very important for individuals. And then there's what they call collective resilience, which is being able to have collective resilience among a team or group, right? So when he did the research and dug in for individual resilience, it was very interesting because he found a lot of research on individual resilience, but it sort of took him back a bit because it was on children, not on adults. And then when he dug further, he finally came across some research that had been done on collective resilience, but it only appeared after 9/11 in our country. which you can think about society as a whole, how our world basically changed in the way we looked at things, right? So it was about teamwork. And the Freedom of Information Act brought on people like the CIA, NIS, FBI. They weren't sharing, they were stovepiping. So that started bringing collective resilience, and they started studying what collective resilience was. However, he had to do quite a bit of research on his own. He did thousands of interviews one-on-one from folks from various industries, not just military. It was in all types, from HR to manufacturing to healthcare. And what he found in interviewing all these leaders is that there was a common thread about collective resilience and how important that was within a team and how to build resilient teams. And there was a lot of these things that he took away from that dissertation. When he defended his dissertation, he went through and did that successfully. And then about a year and a half later, he was working at a Fortune 200 company, and he just knew it was eating away at his soul, his very soul. He knew, I need to take this off the shelf. This needs to be a professional certification so that folks can know how to build resilient teams. And what does that formula look like, right? I very often talk to folks who are, in the military on active duty, and when we engage with folks like that, I myself, a 28-year retired Marine, I know what that culture's like. And all of us who've served, you figure out in that environment, when you step off the bus at basic training or OCS, a light switch goes on in your head, and you figure out in about 48 hours, you're not going to make it through this by yourself. You have to bond together. You have to work together as a team, as a cohesive unit. You have to treat each other with respect. You have to solve problems together. And that collective resilience itself doesn't always manifest itself outside of that group. I learned when I retired in 2010, as I transitioned, there's a lot of great leaders who've never served a day, and they do amazing work. And then there's folks who the concept of team is people working in silos in Cube City, right? In Cubicle City, and they hardly ever interact, ever solve problems together. So he knew then that this needed to be a professional certification. So after he did his dissertation, pulled it all together off the shelf, and then after he did all the interviews and went back and reviewed them, he put a group of subject matter experts together, and he felt that there was 3 levels: frontline supervisors, middle managers, and senior leaders in organizations that were about building resilient teams, supporting organizational learning for, in fact, when organizational change comes. And it comes to every organization. It's not if it will come, it's when it will come. And he knew that that was the formula. And so he wanted to share that, and hence the creation of the Resilience Building Leader Program.
Wow. I find that interesting, especially since 9/11 seemed to be a pivotal point in his research, and kind of touched off this domino effect and building this program. So resilience building is the cornerstone of your training courses. Mm-hmm. So Samira, I would like you to tell me what does that mean? We hear the word resilience a lot. In fact, it is a word that we use across the military a lot. So what does that mean in the context of these leadership courses? What is resilience building?
Resilience, well, first of all, thank you. I'm so excited to be part of this conversation. And I love the ability to highlight these concepts. So when we talk about resilience building leader, it is the ability to bring together a concept of team cohesion, building that culture, establishing purpose within your organization, and being able to drive your organization on that vision.
Okay. And Mark, can you elaborate any more on that? Resilience building is such a key piece. I mean, it's in the title of your organization. It's a cornerstone of all of your courses. So define that, elaborate on that for me.
Yeah. Resilience building itself, and as I mentioned earlier, the 3 levels of certifications that we offer, but that's the ability to overcome adversity, and more importantly, to adapt and grow as a result. Teams that are resilient, you will notice this start becoming very evident as you start building resilient teams. Teams that are resilient and communicative, right? They have to have that shared communication going on, and they can easily adapt to change, allow any business or organization to scale and grow effectively. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Melinda, it is a collective social phenomenon in an organization where people rely on each other to accomplish complex workflows together. And that is really the formula when we say resilience building. You're building that collectively within your team. They all have team goals. They all start developing shared mental models. They develop collective efficacy and their ability to get things done. And they feel that confidence, and they can start estimating that. When you start seeing that occur, and they solve problems as a group, and they persevere through these challenges, that's when you know that you have truly built a resilient team.
Okay. I think the misconception might be that you either have the ability to be resilient or you don't have the ability to be resilient. But it sounds to me like you guys have come up with a formula to teach people how to do that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, you will find people in teams that, we all see these groups, and I've led these groups in my career, in my civilian career, when I transitioned. Some people have a wealth of knowledge. They're an introvert, and they just want to be in their cubicle. But what they find is that gets very lonely. And then they feel a lot of pressure and anxiety and all these things set in, when on their right and left is a fellow team member who you can get a group together at a team table, start talking through it, get on a dry erase board and start mapping things out. And next thing you know, you go, oh, wait a minute. And this person has a wealth of knowledge. They just think they're on their own. Mm-hmm. And what you will notice also when you build resilient teams, and Dr. Jean talks about this, the studies and research start showing, if you only have 4 employees on your team, when you build resilient teams, they really start operating and producing at a production level of like 4.5 or 5 employees. And what you start noticing is it's like a force multiplier that you start seeing over time. Because again, folks from the military who may be listening to this and picking up on this, it's hardwired into our DNA. We don't know anything different. That's what we learned, right? But not everybody has been afforded that experience, and that's fine. But when you start seeing this increased production and confidence, and then they can start evaluating their next task, and you see them together, immediately pulling together to solve this problem, start brainstorming it. That's when you know you're starting to see the signs of building a resilient team. Because look, to be honest, when you're in charge, everybody who's led a team, you cannot be everywhere at all times, okay? And so the worst thing you can do is get called into one of those, everybody's experienced this. The boss wants to meet us for a short meeting, okay? And 2.5 hours later, you're leaving the short meeting. And if you come back, and when you walk in, your team's going, we've had a problem. We're waiting for you to get back. I mean, just start multiplying that over days when they're sitting idle because they think they can't move and solve problems together while you're absent. And that's not what you want. You want to create that resilient team who can solve problems and then come to you and say, hey, boss, while you're in that short meeting, we went ahead and ran through an experiential learning model. We did some reflective observation. And guess what? We have some ideas we would like to implement and put that in the process document. Could we brief you on that? Like, that's the conversation I want to have. But right. If everybody's solo, they go, well, sounds like an IT problem. Nope, sounds like a sorting problem. Well, oh, Carl, that's all on you. Good luck. And they all sit back and, and have coffees and discuss the game last night or what, you know what I'm saying? So that's not what you want. We all collectively come together and solve this. Now, it sounds very simple. When we say it out loud, it sounds very simple to people, but the one thing I've learned, people are complex.
Yes.
And what makes up your team, you celebrate that diversity of opinion and background and all of that comes to the table, because any leader who wants 10 people on a team who think exactly like them, that is not going to end well. Okay, it's just never ends well. So challenging these different opinions is what you want to build. And this is what you want to have in a leader that can do that with a team. And any organization who has a leader who can do this if you think about the cost and the burn rate on dollars spent on turnover, and then rehire process through HR, bring them on, train them up, ramp them up, and get full production about 30 to 90 days after they've come on board to where the last person who went out the door. So if you look at all the benefits this yields a company, and I'll tell you, when somebody lists resilience building leadership professional certification on their resume, I promise you there's going to be an HR person who's going to screen that resume and go, tell me about this.
Yes.
Anytime you can be in an interview, and you know this, Melinda, Stacy, you know it too. Anytime you're in an interview and somebody says, tell me more about this.
Mm-hmm.
What is this about, this certification? This is interesting.
Yes.
You just had an avenue to sit here and wow people.
Right.
So
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the reasons that we really wanted to have this discussion is because we now have these scholarships that are being provided so that military spouses can really take advantage of this professional certification. And so I'd like Samira to tell us a little bit about the type of candidate that might benefit from this training, from this certification. What are you looking for in these candidates?
Oh, great question, Melinda. So there are three professional certifications levels within the RBLP program. The first one that I will highlight is the Resilience Building Leadership Professional, or we've come to call it is RBLP. RBLP focuses on coaching and certifying the frontline supervisors within the organizations. These frontline supervisors, they will learn and understand the importance of building and leading resilient teams by creating a positive climate, developing cohesion, and providing purpose collectively to accomplish their goals in challenging environments. Again, what Mark had highlighted earlier. The second certification is the Resilience Building Leadership Professional Coach, or the RBLPC. This certification, it focuses on coaching and certifying middle managers who also supervise those frontline supervisors. And these managers will learn how to solve problems and overcome adversity in the workplace by facilitating team learning, also creating a positive climate, developing cohesion, and providing purpose within the workplace. Now, these two levels of certifications is what's available in this amazing scholarship for our military spouses. And I did mention that there were 3 certifications, and the last one that I will speak quickly on is the Resilience Building Leadership Professional Trainer, which is the RBLPT, and that focuses on coaching and certifying our senior leaders to support organizational learning, training our middle managers, and to facilitate team learning.
So the candidates that might be interested in applying for these certifications, would they already be employed and serving in these roles, or would these roles be goals that they're moving towards and they could use this certification to move towards those goals? How would that work?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that there is an application process, and based off of the application process will be determined by your experience, education level, and the background. And that determines as far as what level of certification that you'd be qualified for. Now, of course, we always try to encourage professional leadership and personal development. And so when you look at these certifications and you know that you are aspiring to achieve higher education or whatnot, we ask you to include that in the application so we have the foresight of understanding where you're going, and that will be determined by our support team to determine what you will be approved on. But we do highlight the qualifications and the requirements for each particular certifications that can be found on the website that breaks down as to what is considered, or who would be considered a frontline supervisor, who would be considered a middle manager, and who would be considered a senior leader. And I think that gives a really great description as far as where you should apply in that certification.
Yeah, if I could just quickly add one thing, Melinda.
Go ahead, Mark.
You had a first part of your question. It doesn't matter if folks are currently in that position or if they're looking to apply for that position or they're looking to move up. What matters is, as Samira so succinctly put, is that you apply, you tell us your education, your years of shared and direct leadership. And that's important because everybody on this call who's been the second in charge, right? People say, well, you weren't really in charge. Have you ever been a second in charge? You will very often find there is more on your plate than the in charge has. And, and people are always coming to you because the in charge is tied up in meetings or busy or what have you. And as the second in charge. So we ask for that shared and direct leadership, years of experience. So it doesn't matter if you're currently employed, if you're looking to seek employment. This certification speaks to where you're at this point in your career. And that's the level that, as Samira mentioned, that you be found qualified. So it's applicable to all who have that.
Okay, and I want to drill down into that a little bit because Spouse Nation is kind of our portal to assist those military spouses that are either unable to find employment because of location, because of circumstances, because they're in that have-to parenting role, and that is requiring a lot of their time. And you know, military spouses, they kind of, the gamut, they fall along that entire continuum. Personally, I was unable to work for 11 years because of circumstances. I was the have-to parent. So I served in a lot of unpaid leadership roles, which means I was a professional volunteer for 11 years. And so just I want our military spouses who are listening to this to understand that according to what you're telling me, that is just as valuable on this application as their paid experience.
Absolutely.
In a way to codify that unpaid leadership experience as well as their paid leadership and other experience as well. Correct?
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, there's not a
spouses fall in that role. They serve in a lot of those leadership roles, and I want to make sure that they understand that is very, very valuable.
It absolutely is. And I'm so glad you said that because the application doesn't say, how much are you making right now? It says, tell me about your shared and direct leadership, your educational background, any other leadership training you have been a part of. We ask these kind of questions, and that those factors all combined on our site, you can actually see our requirements and then what each level needs to qualify at that certification level. So yeah,
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect. We have a bad habit of not applying for stuff unless we think we're 100% qualified for it. So
very true.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yes. Fill out the application. So, okay, the last thing I want to spend some time talking about, especially because we are right in the heat of PCS season. So yes, we want spouses to apply for these scholarships, but I want them to also understand the commitment that these certification courses will require of them so that they understand how they are going to be working with you. So both of you, and I want to start with Samira, talk about what the commitment, if they've been accepted, they've received their scholarship, they're getting ready to kick off the course. What does that look like? What is the commitment?
Absolutely. So the commitment level, it varies. It varies on the level of certification that you were approved for. Now, once you've completed the administrative part, as you said, Melinda, then you will be assigned an adjunct instructor. You can either request one if you know an adjunct instructor, or one will be assigned to you. This is the time where you establish your training schedule and what that timeline looks like. The exam prep training is conducted via video teleconference in a one-on-one session, and this is done through instructor-led experiential learning that is coupled with a certification instructor that typically has well over 20 years of experience and a graduate degree or higher. Now, the time expectation that everybody wants to know, it ranges. It ranges based off of the different levels of certification. And that can range anywhere from 9 to 21 hours of student preparation, along with a one-on-one video session. Now, for these sessions, they're done on Teams, Microsoft Teams, and they are for the for the Resilience Building Leadership Professional certification. That's about three sessions for that training. For the RBLP, for the Resilience Building Leadership Professional Coach, that's 5 sessions for that training, and the Resilience Building Leadership Professional Training is about 7 sessions. Now, this all prepares you, the exam prep training prepares you for the oral certification, which again varies on your certification level approval, which can range anywhere from an hour and a half to 3.5 hours. Now, those are general guidelines that we've typically see throughout the different training sessions, and it's also driven by the individual. We definitely want to highlight that there is preparation during this, that there's going to be homework, there's going to be requirements, there's going to be that time that you need to take for yourself, review the material, and to bring that conversation to really generate and highlight the knowledge that is going to be received from these sessions.
Okay. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just, the only thing I could possibly add to what Samira provided for us is that you need to do some work on your own where you will have the material, right? So once you apply, and as she mentioned the process, you will then download this material locally, and then you will be assigned, and then you will do session 1 on your own. You'll go through the whole lesson. You'll answer reflection questions. You'll jot answers down to that, write down any notes. There's some TED Talks associated with the first 4 sessions that you have. If it's a C, then you would be into that. If it's a P, it's all 3 at the beginning, right? And you watch those and you make any notes and any takeaways that you have. So as she mentioned, that is your preparation and you are ready. Now, some people can do that in an hour and a half. Some people it takes 3 hours. If you're like me, when I went through it, Dr. Jean was my adjunct instructor. So the very guy who wrote it. So let's just say I had a lot more investment, and I'm the kind of guy who finds something and I've heard about it and I learned about it, but then I start Googling and go down a rabbit hole to learn more, and then of course, my 1 hour session with Dr. Jean became sometimes an hour and a half to 2 hours because we were really digging into it, right? So, and I wasn't tapping out, but the point is the 1 hour coaching session is solid, okay? How long you take to get through the material on your own and read through everything and watch the TED Talks, that's strictly individual. And like I said, I've seen folks knock it out in an hour and a half and come ready at a coaching session, and they are on point. Some people are like, yeah, I was on this, like digging into this for like 4.5 hours. I'm like, awesome. Are you ready? And they're like, I just kept looking up all these other things, and this is amazing. So it depends on the person, as she said, but on the average, it's between an hour and a half to 3 hours per session, and then the 1 hour coaching session. And then, of course, she mentioned the length of sitting for the exam itself. But, you're going to do some prep review before you take your exam. That's just common practice. But again, it could vary on the person. So that's a really good estimate she provided everyone to kind of plan accordingly.
Perfect. Well, I think that you guys have provided us some amazing information, and I actually would love to sign up for one of these courses. I think it would be amazing to be able to take one of these courses. So just in the last short little bit of time, if either one of you have any what we call saved rounds, some last minute comments that you would like to share with our military spouses that will be listening to this is your time. So we'll start with Mark, and then Zamira, if you have any last minute comments. Mark, either you're muted.
Oh, I'm here. That was a sound test on my end, and it sounded great in my ears. But
awesome.
Absolutely. One of the things that I would say is, first of all, thanks to you all for contacting us and connecting. And I think this is an excellent opportunity. We don't really get into this, but if you think of the 5 P certifications open for scholarship potential, right? And the 5 C certifications. if you think about that collectively together, you're talking about, $15,000 worth of professional development and a professional certification, or over $15,000. And that's a great opportunity for people. And I'm so glad that you all reached out, and we're happy to do this. Giving back and taking care of our community along the way is one of our 4 core values at RBLP. And the one thing that always resonates with me is there was a quote. So whether, and military spouses, trust me, I've had one and still have one. I've been in this game for 28 years. Okay. So, the fact she's still here is amazing to me. But, after so many deployments, they have a Herculean effort. Okay. I mean, going and doing the thing that we do in the military, but the military spouses that take care of the home front, juggle everything else, make sure that this is done on time, that's done on time. It's an amazing group of individuals, and we're so happy to be able to offer this. There's one quote that sticks out in my head that I picked up years ago, and no matter where you're at, this is an opportunity for you to take advantage of, because it's going to change the path. This quote, if I could share it with you, is this: being a leader is a tall order, which is why leading people should not be a reward. It should be a responsibility that requires talent and training. And that training must include expertise in the most important part of any organization, its people. And so when you have a certification that is about its people and building resilient teams, that is going to resonate with many, many people that you engage with on your job search, on your interview process, and having this is going to be, it's just going to be a huge benefit. So many HR personnel look for education and experience, but they start noticing a lot about certifications these days, a lot. That's increased pretty much tenfold in the last 5 years, because that speaks volumes of what that is. And it is not a certificate program. Everyone knows you've had in your career where you've gone to a lot of training, and you probably have a 4-inch binder sitting at home with all the certificates for all the training that you have accomplished. And that is amazing, and that's great. This is a certification. It is a quantifiable measurement of all the experience, education, knowledge, and background you bring to the table, and says, I am ready to build resilient teams, is what it says to anybody who sees that. So thank you so much for that. And great being here. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. And I will defer to Miss Samira.
How do I follow that, right? I second Mark as to being part of this opportunity and affording this scholarship to such an amazing population of individuals that continue to service our greatest nation's heroes and doing what they do. And any way that we can help, I know that we'll provide you with the information. As an academic advisor, I'm here to assist in any way possible throughout this process. And if there's anyone that just needs to get more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. And like Mark said, do not sell yourself short from this opportunity. It's amazing, and you're going to benefit from it.
Thank you both for your time, for your information. I have learned a lot. I really appreciate your time with us this morning, and I'm going to turn it back over to Stacy.
Thank you, guys. The one thing that kept going through my head is military spouses are resilient.
Yes,
absolutely.
The fact that we can provide this opportunity. So there were a couple of things I was just going to highlight about this for our spouses out there listening. Getting this certification is going to give you greater recognition at work. It's going to improve your opportunities. It's going to better your compensation. Maybe you're working pro bono right now. Maybe now you're going to get a job that's going to pay you what you're worth, and you're going to be more competitive. So these were highlights that I pulled from when I was doing my research on this organization. So all of that is going to improve our opportunities out there. So we're very excited that we have this opportunity to present these scholarships to you. We will be sharing information on our website, so please check out militaryspouseJobs.org, spousenation.org, and we will be sharing this throughout all of our different social media platforms as well. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to this today, and believe in yourself and apply for the scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.